Hello everyone. Today is a little bit windy, so hopefully the sound is not too bad. I just wanted to make a quick short video to show you a little bit of my creative process to come up with my work for our back and forth exhibition. And show you when I bump into problems, because normally when I try to create something that is not just observational painting, but it's more symbolic, or just out of my head, I always find myself in some sort of strife, and in this opportunity it wasn't any different. And hopefully in that way we kind of all learn a little bit, about how we can create work and how to deal with problems when they pop up. So let's have a look. For me, the expression back and forth brings many ideas into my mind. Many times I have felt that I have gone without much heading into things in my life, and I have felt lost. So then I have, in a way, perhaps wasted time going and coming back from projects, relationships, situations. Also, I have traveled a lot and walk a lot. The land, the volcanic landscape in my country. The forest, the desert. So then the expression in itself means perhaps many things. And it evokes in my mind also the idea of the wanderer. The wanderer, in essence, is kind of a quest for finding one's own identity, where being authentic is perhaps the most important thing. And certainly it's a solitary journey. So that perhaps is the idea that stuck in my mind the most. So then I decided to go with the archetype of the wanderer. Certainly I have used the concept before. I have painted and then sketches of different characters walking the land, wandering. Sometimes I have created bigger work that I have exhibited and being able to sell as well. And sometimes the character also had represented other things, for example. But it's always this wandering figure on the landscape. Another element that I have used many times before is kind of the concept of a box, or a vase, or a bowl, essentially like the content the carrier of the soul. And the bag in itself, specifically, is a symbol that carries some burdens and responsibilities, but also shows self-sufficiency. So I thought, the wanderer and the bag go very well together. At this very early stage, I normally sketch quite a lot when I'm creating new work, particularly when it's sort of like symbolic or out of my head. But I also just went through old sketchbooks, because the idea has been around my head, for a long time. So I just decided to kind of pick up one of those old ideas, and I went with it and decided to make it a little bit more complex, which was a little bit of a challenge, having several invented figures in the landscape. And perhaps then I maybe deviated a little bit from the concept of the wanderer, but I did. I kind of checked the notan, the black and white version of the concept, to see how strong the composition was. And I also used a harmonic grid just to check that I was going in the right direction. And even use an app to find possible color schemes. So then just, I was happy, and I decided to go with the idea. Then the first step was to do an under drawing and under painting in raw amber, which is kind of very standard of master technology. And here you can see how after I have completed the underpainting and when it's dry, I just come with the first painting, which is when you initially put your first layer of color. I'm just rubbing in earthy colors like raw sienna, burnt sienna, and ultramarine blue, although ultramarine is quite saturated, it's not an earthy one. But the essence is to have sort of broken color, so I can have a better idea of what's going to happen at the end. And here I'm putting the darkest color at the very end of the session, which is ultramarine blue. Because normally you want to start with the lighter ones first and then probably end up with the darkest one, only because they are all transparent, so it kind of makes sense to do it that way. And I was at this stage fairly happy with the end result of the first painting layer, because it was fairly broken, fairly dirty, and I like that. And from this point on is when problems started. And unfortunately, I forgot to record it, so I apologize for that. I should have, but I think I was so frustrated and focused on trying to fix it that I just forgot. I think in essence, the problem was that I found myself just painting objects, focusing on, the teddies that one of the characters is carrying out, and, the boots of the other character, the background, and so on. And that's definitely not the way that I tend to think about painting. I like to, as a tonal impressionist, which has a background in also Renaissance technology, I like to think of painting as a retinal image, where there are not objects, you're just painting abstract configurations of paint. So I definitely didn't feel comfortable focusing on objects. And I noticed that to activate and unify the different areas, I was relying on the color scheme, and also the brushwork. But it's very difficult for me. I'm sure there are people that are very good at it, but for me, it's very difficult to be inventing something when you don't have much visual information. So I felt that sort of unification just through brushwork and with color scheme wasn't giving me enough variety on the surface of the work. So then I felt very frustrated, and I decided to try to see if I could wiggle myself out of the problem, and in a way I then decided to change the image in a way, and I did this. I decided to see if there were bits of the image that I felt happy with. And I decided to go with this one because it reminded me again of the concept of the wanderer. That a very early idea that I have worked with many years ago. So then I checked the no done, the black and white version of it to sense the energy of the possible cropping, and I really like it. And I also use, again, the harmonic grid just to check that everything fit very well and is also quite harmonious with the format. So then I went with that idea. So a couple of more layers later, I ended up with a much simpler image, but for me it feels very strong. So then I really like it, and I will go with it. The final step is just to transfer the canvas onto a stretcher or a board and to put a final varnish, and then we are ready to go with the exhibition. So thank you for listening to me. I know that it was a little bit probably long and a little bit crazy, but that was my process for this group show that I'm really looking forward to participate in. Bye.